Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at the Adobe Illustrator tools. So there are quite a number of tools to work with, but let's start with the first batch. We have what we call the selection tool. We use this one to select objects. But before we get to this set of tools, we need to have something inside our artboard. So I'm going to start with our first tools. So before we proceed to the tools, you will notice that each and every tool has got a small, a tiny triangle at the bottom right. That is what we call a placeholder. So a placeholder, it holds other tools. So you need to press and hold the left button and the tools will pop up automatically. So that is what we call a placeholder. So let's start with the pen tool. So we use the pen tool to draw straight and curved objects. So if you want to draw a straight line object, you need to click point to point. So I can click on a point like this one. You click on another point, you click on another point, you click on another point. If I want to curve, then you need to click on a point and then you can drag so that you can create a curve like that. So that is a pen tool. So if I use my selection tool to select this object, just click on your selection tool. You notice that your object will be selected. So we use the selection tool to select, resize. You can resize your object using these tiny boxes on the sides, and also you can use it to select an object by clicking it, resizing, and also you can use it to move and rotate objects so you can see what is happening. So that is the selection tool. So we have also used the pen tool. So we have drawn a straight object with a curve. We can also use it to draw another type of object. So I can click on my pen tool. Let's say we can have an object like that. So you can see the use of vectors. So you can see the presence of that green line. It shows you a vector. So you can see a diameter of 5.55 centimeters. So I click that. I can click another point like that. Then I want to have my curve at this point. You can drag upwards. You need to place your pointer, you hold and drag upwards or to whichever angle that you want. So that is how you generate an object with a curve using the pen tool. The next tool that we have is what we call the add anchor point tool. So we use the add anchor point tool to create what we call anchor points. Anchor points are these tiny boxes on the sides. So you can add anchor points so that you can be able to, let's say, reshape your object. So just click on your add anchor point tool. You just click along the path, along the line. So maybe I can create one anchor point there. I can click and create another anchor point maybe somewhere there. So ensure that your object is selected so that you can have your anchor points. So once your anchor points are selected, then we can use this tool, the direct selection tool, so that we can reshape the object. So we use the direct selection tool to reshape an object. So click on the direct selection tool, select where we have our anchor point, and then you drag. So you can see as you drag, the shape of that particular object changes. If I drag maybe this one, you can reshape your object the way you want. So at the end of the day, that is what you come up with. So that is the add anchor point. Next, add anchor point with the direct selection tool. Next, we have the delete anchor point tool. This one is used for removing anchor points. So click on make sure your object is selected, click on delete anchor point tool, then locate where we have an anchor point. So if I click, maybe I want to remove this anchor point. When you click, the size, the shape of that object changes. If I click another anchor point, then that shape changes. So delete anchor point, it removes anchor points. The next tool that we have is what we call the convert anchor point tool. So we use the convert anchor point tool if you want to carve a segment that has an anchor point. Assuming that I use my add anchor point, I create my anchor point maybe somewhere here. Then I come and pick my convert anchor point tool. So if I place my pointer here and drag, you can see that that segment, you can carve that particular segment with the anchor point. That is the role of the convert anchor point tool. So that marks this section. It marks this section, the end of that section. Next, we have the type tools. So you notice that it has an arrow, so that's also a placeholder. So hold down the left mouse button, you will see quite a number of tools here. So the first one is the type tool. So we use the type tool if you want to type text horizontally. So click on your type tool and then just click a point of your choice so you can type whatever you like. So that is the type tool. Next, we have what we call the area type tool. So the area type tool, it enables you to type text inside an object. So if I click on my area type tool, then I come and pick an object like this one. You notice that my cursor will be placed inside. So if I type, you'll notice that my text will take that particular shape. So you notice that as you type, your text fits inside that particular shape. So you type text horizontally, but inside or within a shape. So that is the area type tool. So if I use my selection tool, my object will be selected. If I click on my artboard to deselect it, you will notice that your text will take this particular shape. Next, we have what we call the type on a path tool. So we use the type on a path tool if you want to type text along a path, So when you talk of a path, it is just a line. So click on your type on a path tool, then place your pointer along a line. Then as you type, you'll notice that your text will follow that particular path. So that is the type on a path tool. So you will notice that, okay, my path will end there. So if I click on my object, it's selected by default. I deselect it, you'll notice that your text will take this particular shape. So that is the type on a path tool. Next, we have what we call the vertical type tool. Unlike the type tool that types text horizontally, we use the vertical type tool to type text vertically. That is up, actually top down. So click on your vertical type tool, just click on a point, then you can type your text vertically. That's how it looks like. Also, we have what we call the vertical area type tool. The vertical area type tool is the same as the area type tool. The only difference is that the text is typed inside an object but vertically. So if I come and draw my object, let's say for instance I pick something like I can pick my pen, because that's what I used before. So I can click point to point. Maybe I can pick that like that. You'll notice that it has a fill, no problem. Let's just use our vertical area type tool. Then I click inside my object. You will notice that my cursor will blink inside. So as you type your text, you are typing your text fitting inside an object but vertically. So that is how we go about it. I can enter, can type something like that, like that, like that, as you can see, you notice that your text is fitting inside your shape. So if I click on my selection tool, it will be selected. Upon deselecting it by clicking on my artboard, you will see that this text will take that particular shape. Next, we also have what we call the vertical type on a path tool. So let's see how this one works. So let me draw something using a pen tool. Again, maybe I can pick something like that. Then I come and choose my vertical type on a path tool. So I come here, click. So you'll notice that unlike the type on a path tool, whereby your text is typed on top of that particular line, the vertical type on a path tool, it centers your cursor. So as you type, you notice that your text literally follows that path. So you can see the direction is totally different compared to the type on a path tool. So this one, you type your text vertically, but it literally follows that particular path. So if I use my selection tool, then I deselect it, just click on your artboard, you will see that this text will take this particular shape. So that marks the text section. If I want to select, you want to clear all this, just press Ctrl A to select all, then you press the delete key on your keyboard to clear. So the next thing you're going to look at is the line tools, working with lines. So let's start with the first one. We have the line segment tool. This one, it enables you to draw straight lines. So if I click on my line segment, just place your pointer on a point, then drag and drop to draw a straight line. So you'll notice that this line is not colored. Okay, this line is not colored. So for you to color this line and make it visible, even after removing the selection, you need to set the stroke, because lines usually use stroke settings. So I can pick any color of my choice. I can pick like that black, for example, from my palette. So if I click on my selection tool and then I deselect, you will see that now that your line is visible. The next tool is what we call the arc tool. So we use the arc tool to draw arcs, both concave and convex arcs. So I can click that. If I want to draw a convex arc, that's a concave arc. And also we have what we call we also have this type of arc, that's what we call a convex arc. So we have convex and concave arcs, so it enables you to draw arcs. Next, we have the spiral tool. This one is used for drawing spiral lines. So what you're getting by default, this is what we call a symmetrical spiral. So I'll have a lesson whereby I'll show you how to create symmetrical spiral lines. It has a process. The next tool to use is what we call the rectangular grid tool. So we use the rectangular grid tool to draw rectangular shapes with boxes inside. So if I click on that rectangular grid tool, then you drag and drop, then that is what you will have. So if I happen to remove the selection and deselect, you will see something like this. So these boxes are what we call grids. Also, we have what we call the polar grid tool. So with the polar grid tool, if I draw my object, you will see that is the kind of shape that you'll get. Let me deselect it. So at the end of the day, it will show you segments and tracks. So segments are these triangular sections that are created. Those are what we call segments. And then these lines, we call them concentric tracks. They are called concentric tracks. So that is how you draw such kind of shapes. So let's select all and clear all of them. The next set of tools we have is what we call the shape tools. We have these shape tools. So let's start with our rectangle tool. We use the rectangle tool to draw rectangles and squares with sharp edges. So click on your rectangle tool. Then if you want to draw a rectangle, you just drag and drop. So you get a rectangle like that. If I want to draw a perfect square, you just use the same tool. Then as you drag, you hold down the shift key on your keyboard as you drag to create a perfect square. The next tool we have is what we call the rounded rectangle tool. Same as the rectangle tool, the only difference is that it has rounded edges. So I can draw a rounded rectangle of that type. If I want to draw a square, you shift drag, just like the way you did with the rectangle tool. You shift drag to come up with a perfect square of that type. Also, we have the ellipse tool. We use this one to draw ellipses and circles. So when you talk of an ellipse is just an oval shape. So click on the ellipse tool, then drag to draw an ellipse or an oval shape. You want a perfect circle, you shift drag to draw a perfect circle. Next, we have what we call the polygon tool. We use these ones to draw polygon shapes. So when you talk of polygon shapes, these are shapes with many sides. Like for instance, a triangle, a pentagon, a hexagon, an octagon, etc. So click on your polygon tool. So if I drag, by default, you will draw a hexagon. If you want to change the shape of this polygon, using the same tool, just click inside your artboard. It will pop up the polygon dialog box. So in this number of sides section, you can specify the number of sides that you want. I can type something like 8. Then I press OK. So you're going to get an octagon. Also, we have the star tool. We use the star tool to draw star shapes. So if I click on my star tool, then you happen to draw by default, then you're going to get a star shape. It's a 5-star, it's a 5-sided star. If you want to change the number of sides, just like the polygon, use the same tool, then click on the point where you want your star to appear. Then you can change the number of points. Let's put like something like 12 points, and then I click OK, and that is the type of star that you will get. Next, we have what we call the flare tool. With the flare tool, this one here, we use this one to draw flares. So when you draw a flare, it's like a circle, but you can see it has got some sort of spikes or lines that appear on the sides originating from the center. So if I deselect that, then that is what you're going to get. That is what we call a flare. That's a flare. So that's what you'll get. So I can position it somewhere, anywhere. You can position it anywhere on your artboard depending on where you want it to appear. So that marks the end of that particular lessons. So that is tools part 1. So in our next lesson, we are going to proceed with the other tools. Otherwise, thank you very much and